Welcome to Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'm your host, Karen Seltz, also known as the Uncensored Self-Love Coach. I'm so happy you've joined me today. We are going to dive deep into the first step of awakening. So if you are new to me, there are really only three things that you need to know. The first thing is that if you have a higher calling that you haven't quite stepped into yet, if you haven't found like your purpose in life, just know that I have been where you are and I am so honored to walk this journey with you. The second thing that you need to know is I consider my greatest superpower to be that of a divine mirror. And what I mean by that is I have the ability to channel the divine and to reflect back to people what their purpose is, who they really are, the truth of their being, which is what we're going to get into tonight. And I reflect it back to them until they get it for themselves. And they're like, oh my gosh, I get it. Yes, yes, I'm powerful. I'm precious. I'm perfect. I'm perfectly imperfect. And the third thing that you need to know about me is that I am uncensored in my approach. I am willing to go wherever I'm called to go, to say whatever I'm called to say, and to do whatever I'm called to do to get you to a breakthrough. So hold on to your hats. Let's rock and roll. So the reason that I chose this topic of how to awaken is because for me, it's been a journey of forgetting the truth of who I am and then remembering, forgetting, remembering, forgetting, remembering. And along the way, the time between forgetting and remembering has gotten shorter and shorter and shorter because I've used certain tools that I want to share with you tonight. So if you can relate to that, let me tell you more about what I mean about it first. So forgetting the truth of who you are means to me, it's like believing the itty bitty shitty committee, those little voices inside your head that tell you you're not good enough, you'll never make it. Who do you think you are to want more money or a better relationship, a better body, whatever it is? The voice in your head that wants to keep you small. The voice in your head that has you comparing yourself with others, whether it's like, oh, I'm better than that person, or I'm not as good as that person. It could be either way. It's a device that the ego uses to help us, or not help us, but to make us feel separate. And for many, many years, I believed that voice. I believed that what I heard in my head, that voice, that was fact. And it turns out it was bullshit. So now I've learned over many, many, many years to play with that voice, with that part of me. Instead of like rejecting it, pushing it away, I play with it. And if you've seen my show before, you'll see how I kind of play with it. And I have fun with it most of the time. Now, sometimes I get in, the spiral and I'm like, I'm not good enough. I'll never amount or whatever, you know how the crappy voices go. So it's like that. So what I'm going to share with you is how to actually get to like shorten that period of where you're forgetting who you are. Now, what I consider to be the truth of who I am is the parts of me that never ever change. And that is, I believe in a few principles that guide me. Like I am as I was created. And I believe that I was created perfect and in the image of the divine. And that never ever changes. And there's not a single thing that I can do to make myself any less worthy of love. And this is really freeing. Listen to this. There's not a single thing I can do to make myself any more worthy of love, which means I cannot earn it. There's nothing I can do to be more lovable, which is so freeing because I don't need to do anything to earn it. I am just lovable the way I am. I was born that way. I will die that way. And in between, lovable, period. So that when I finally got that concept and really, really got it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to earn love my entire life. I've made myself into a human doing. And I don't know if you can relate to that, but in my family, I grew up thinking like, if I can get good grades, my parents will love me. If I keep my room clean, my parents will love me. If I clean my plate, my parents will love me. If I don't be a nuisance, if I'm not loud, my parents will love me. Well, I'm a loud person, you know? I grew up as the class clown, always trying to get attention in school, because at home, if I was loud, I oftentimes would get hit, and I didn't want that. And at school, my school, they didn't hit us, which was amazing. I didn't mind going to the principal's office as long as he or she wasn't going to hit me. I had very low standards back then. Who can relate? So I love this concept of remembering the truth of who I am. So for me, there are certain things that are just constant. So I'm not a female, for example. That's something that could change in other lifetimes. I'm not a wife, a mother, a daughter. I'm none of those things. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I'm none of those things, because those are superficial and they're not the truth of who I am. The truth of who I am is I am as precious and perfect as the day I was created. I am a creator. I was made in the likeness of the divine. I am here to create. It is my birthright to be abundant, to be happy, to be joyful, to be peaceful, to experience love on all levels. So there are things like that that for me are fundamental. They never change. They are true for all of humanity, for every single person. And there are also some concepts that really support me. And I'm going to do a little bit of a screen share here and share them with you so that you can grow and I can support you on your path, because the path can be long or short. You get to choose it. So what are you choosing? So let's dive in. One moment. So the first step to awakening. Number one is to be responsible for everything you see. So what that means is that there is nothing outside of you, nothing. So everything that you see out here is something that you've created, usually to reinforce a belief that you've had. And it could be because of something you've experienced in the past. So if I've experienced unworthiness in the past, if I've experienced every relationship I've ever had with a man or partner, them leaving me, I will look for evidence that my new partner will leave me too, and I will create it. I'll find the evidence, and then I'll make it so unbearable for that person that he will leave me inevitably, right? So everything that we experience, everything that we see, we would not be able to see it if it were not part of us. Now, the beauty of that, there's several beautiful things, is if you see something in someone else that triggers you, that pisses you off, that person is there for you as a teacher. And that is your greatest messiah right there. I mean, really, they're there to show you what's ready to be healed in you, what's ready to come up to the surface so you can look at it and heal it and transcend it, transmute it into love, acceptance, joy, peace. So now it's easier, let's just put it this way. When I piss people off, like the first thought I have is, you're welcome. And I will often say that, which of course pisses them off more. But then when I explain it, I'm like, what are your judgments of me? Or what am I bringing up in you? And then if we go deeper, it's like, you're being judgmental or you're being this. I'm like, okay, awesome. So where are you judgmental of yourself? Where are you judging yourself? Where are you not cutting yourself some slack? Where are you being hard on yourself? And it's always about them. It's never about me if I'm triggering someone. And the converse is also true. If someone's triggering me, it's not about them. They were sent perhaps as a messenger to bring up what I'm ready to heal. So there is nothing outside of you. Everything that you experience is caused by you. You are the cause and you're witnessing or experiencing the effect. And you experience only the effects of your own choices. So This is a hard concept for a lot of people. A lot of people are like, I did not cause COVID, or I didn't cause the war in Ukraine to happen. Well, if you're willing to play with it, it's such a fun concept, even with these hard things, these difficult concepts. So if you think of like, what possible reason could you have for creating the conflict or the war in the Ukraine? For me, it would be to see people, to ignite their compassion, because people all around the world are coming together now for this cause, and they are contributing in all kinds of ways. They're praying, they're meditating, they're sending aid, they're sending supplies, they're putting pressure on their politicians to do something, right? So it's a way that people can come together and get rid of their differences, get rid of their Republican, Democrat, whatever the labels are, and see their similarities and their humanity. So if I were playing with this, that would be my reason for doing that. All right. So next would be to make a choice to be curious. Now, what do I mean by that? So when you're looking at your thoughts, your behaviors, your emotions, like how your body's holding things, you can look at that with judgment. You can look at it with guilt, blame, fault, shame. Or you could say, interesting. I wonder why I am experiencing this. What preceded this? So if you go back a step and look, okay, so this is what I'm experiencing. And I love this analogy of dropping pebbles into a pool, and you see the ripple. Boop, 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 boop. And what pebbles did you drop into that pool of your awareness, which is called your reality, right? So if you dropped judgment, like you're on the freeway and somebody cuts you off and you're like, that son of a bloop. All right, so there's a pebble of judgment. There's a pebble of anger. There's a pebble of self-righteousness. So those are the ripples that you're sending out. And that will create your future. So it could be your immediate future, or could be your tomorrow, your the next day. So here's the beauty. Oh, I love this. If you don't like what you're experiencing at any moment, you are free to choose again. Now, this is a concept that comes from A Course in Miracles, and I love it. Choose again. So if I don't like that my bank account has $2 in it, I'm like, I must have been identifying with scarcity and lack. I must have forgotten the truth of who I am, that there's no possible way I could lack anything. I forgot that it is my birthright to be abundant, to be happy, to be taken care of. And the moment I make that choice to surrender and to allow the universe, God, the divine, to give to me, to pour into me, and to remember, like, oh yeah, I'm abundant. Then I'm dropping in a pebble of worthiness, which is what I'm going to create. I'm dropping in a pebble of abundance. I'm dropping in a pebble of trust. I'm dropping in a pebble of receptivity, of allowance, of surrender. And very soon, my reality will completely shift. And I love this concept because, I mean, if you look at, I've said this before, but any given event, and you ask 10 people that were there, describe that event to me, you will get 10 completely different accounts. And what blows my mind is if you're talking about a family that had 10 children, and you say, tell me about your childhood, each one will have a completely different view of their childhood. Some will say, oh, it was so messed up, my family was dysfunctional. And the other one will say, like, oh my gosh, I had an idyllic childhood. There's nothing I would change. And it's the same environment. And it's all like up here. It's like, what meaning do we give to things? So taking that concept and just saying, interesting. How else could I look at this situation? What other possibilities exist? If I didn't have my past baggage that I'm bringing with me and reacting to, how would I look at this situation? If I were a reporter that was objective, how would I see this? How would I report the facts of this event? Because all events are neutral. Yes, all events are neutral. And that's a tough one to play with sometimes, but it's also fun. So what if the event of a man leaving me was neutral? I'm just using that as an example. What if that was neutral? There's another concept that I absolutely love, and it is I don't know what anything means or what anything is for, but I know you do. And that's God, universe, spirit. It's also my highest self. I know you do. So you can pray, you can ask, like, show me what this means, show me what this is for. And we're going to get into that in a minute, different states of getting there. So the next thing is to retrain your mind to be responsible for everything you are experiencing without, here's the key, guilt, fault, blame, or shame. So when you're retraining your mind, you're really looking at events neutrally. You're looking at, okay, like I said a minute ago, how else can I look at this? What else is possible? So it's really fun to play with, but it takes practice. It takes practice to retrain your mind because you've had how many years of being the same way? Probably a lot of them, depending on your age. I just had a birthday. I just turned 54. So I had 50 plus years of thinking a certain way, and then about 4 years of thinking in a different way. so it's going to take some time. And then the last concept, like I said, is choose again. If you don't like what you have, make a different choice. And sometimes, especially in the beginning, you get to choose again 7,000 times a day, however many times it takes. Now, the awakened heart, which is the key to awakening, is living from your heart and not your head. The awakened heart feels all things. A couple weeks ago, we talked about spiritual bypassing, which is not wanting to feel your feelings is part of it. So what is it like to actually feel the feelings? I have shared this before, but I used to suffer from clinical depression, and I was so afraid of being sad. I was afraid, like, oh my gosh, if I get sad, I'm going to go back down and I'm going to be suicidal again. And I can't be suicidal because I'm a single mom and blah, 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 right? Like there's all the excuses, all the stories that are based on the past. Well, the past doesn't exist anymore, but we often will still react to the past and think we're reacting to what's right in front of us. And that's simply not true. So I used to resist feeling sad, which is what led to my addiction. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling less than. Okay, what can I do to not feel that? And I would numb out everything. And my drugs of choice were, for a while, it was shopping. Then it was sex, sugar. I even started smoking for a little while in my 40s, which is a hilarious concept to me. I mean, I didn't smoke a lot, but whatever. I used it to numb out. So feel your feelings. The awakened heart feels the feelings. And here's the beautiful thing about it. When you allow the feelings, you give them safe passage through, they don't stay very long. They're like, okay, I'm acknowledged. You're acknowledging, okay, I feel sad. It's not I am sad. It is I feel sad or I feel angry. Because be careful with the words I am, because when you say anything after it, you are decreeing it to the universe. Like, okay, I am. So if you're going to say I am powerful or whatever you want to be. All right. So the awakened heart embraces all things. So it's not like, okay, I'll allow this sad feeling for a minute and then I don't really want it. It's unwanted. It's not welcome. So when you embrace it, you're like, okay, it's leaning into the sadness. And there's a meditation I love for this. It's called Tonglen. It comes from the Buddhist practice. And it involves feeling the feeling of everybody who's going through what you're going through. So say you lost a pet, for example. It's feeling the sadness, the anguish, the longing of everybody who's lost a pet. And you're taking it all in. So instead of breathing in peace and serenity, you're breathing in pain and suffering, and you feel it deeply. And there's some things you do to prep for it. And then you're releasing what you want to experience. Love, kindness, comfort, support. You're exhaling that out to everybody. And what happens is you end up receiving what you were giving. And it's such a beautiful practice. I love it so much. The awakened heart trusts all things. So when you sit and you get quiet and you pray and you meditate and you ask questions, what is this for? What would you have me do? What would you have me know? What would you have me see? You get to trust it. You get to trust it. Whatever comes in for you, you just get to trust. And you get to allow all things, which means releasing judgment as much as possible. And you could say to yourself, I don't know what anything means or what anything is for. I don't know why I'm experiencing this person as a jerk, but I am. But then you allow it. The pathway to awakening is truthfulness. So you get to be honest with yourself. Instead of spiritual bypassing and being in denial, you get to be honest and you get to say, I'm experiencing sadness. And instead of running from it, you get to lean in and feel it deeply. Releasing the need to be special. This is an interesting one. And by being special, it means like feeling separate, feeling better than somebody else, wanting God's attention, the divine's attention, some like your mate's attention, your best friend's attention, and wanting praise, things like that, because you're always on the hook for things like that. When you release the need to be special, you get that we are all one. We're all united. There is no special. Like we're all different and unique and beautiful, and we're all the same at our essence. Now, this one's interesting. Returning to a state of empty-headedness. And that is a state of not knowingness. And what that means is, like, for example, when I'm coaching, I say a prayer, like, get me out of the way and speak through me. So my head is empty of judgments, opinions, even thoughts that are my own. And I'm a conduit, I'm a channel. And everybody has that ability. I'm not special. There we go. So it just comes through me, and whatever comes through is perfect. So releasing that and not being attached, because when you have opinions and judgments, there's no room for spirit to come in because you already know the answer. You already know everything. Trusting your connection to the divine. And that is just coming from a base of, I know that I'm connected to the divine. I know that we are one. I know that the divine has my back. Allowance means allowing things and not resisting. So a lot of times there are things that we know that we should do to be in alignment. I hate that word should. So I put it in quotes, air quotes. So just stop resisting. And it could be feelings, it could be your calling, and just going for it, trusting. So if you hear in your guidance, like go open a retreat center in Costa Rica, and you have no idea how, you get to do it anyway. And just trust that all the resources will be there for you. Surrender is beautiful. And that's this concept of myself, I can do nothing. So it's just trusting the divine to provide for you and being in the moment and asking, like, what would you have me do? What would you have me know? What would you have me say and to whom? And just surrendering and doing the thing, taking the action. And then remembrance. Remembrance is beautiful. It's a state of knowingness that you are not separate, that you are love. You came from love and you can be nothing else. It is just remembering the truth of who you are. Awakening is only remembrance. So to awaken means to have journeyed nowhere and to have arrived at a goal that has never changed, which is such a beautiful thing. Like, we think we have to go on this long journey and climb up, this mountain in Tibet to awaken and to pray and meditate and go in our cave. And that's not it. It's only like coming back, remembering, oh yes, I'm divine. That's right. I'm made of love. That's right. I'm an infinite creator. I have unlimited possibilities. So it's remembering all of those things. And your goal has never changed. It's always been the same. It's just remembering, waking up to what it is, like, oh yeah. And we've all had those moments where we remember and then we forget again. And that's what this whole process is about. One of the things that I'm in the habit of doing is when I forget who I am, I can read some things. I have made a list of things. These are the truths. I guess I could share my screen because it's probably the next slide. These are the truths of who I am. So part of this is like cultivating deep self-love, because if you don't love yourself, you can't really love anybody else. And part of this, again, is making the decision to trust your creator, whatever you call it, God, divine, universe, spirit. There is a meditation I want to share with you that I absolutely love. It's made a huge impact for me, and it's so simple. And it is this: 5 minutes a day, just 5, or anytime you forget the truth of who you are. On the inhale, you say in your head silently, I accept. And it could be the love of God, the love of the universe, the love of spirit, the love of Christ, the love of Mother Mary, whoever. I accept the love of God. I accept the love of God on the exhale. And you just say that silently in your head. And I didn't realize how much I was resisting that, how unworthy of it I felt. I felt like I had to be perfect to be lovable by God. And the moment I got that I didn't, that I was loved by God, universe, spirit, no matter what, was the moment I started to love myself and to embrace my imperfections and to not sweat them and say, it's okay. I don't need to be perfect. There's no way I can't be perfect because I was created that way, but I don't need to behave perfectly. I don't need to think perfectly. I just get to do my best and be aware. So the next thing is to write down some of those fundamental truths in your language. So mine is, I am a precious child of God. I am as I was created. I am love. I am loving. I am loved. I'm lovable forever. There's nothing I can do to be any more worthy of love. And there's nothing I can do to be any less worthy of love. Things like that. But in your language, whatever are the fundamental truths that don't change. And keep them nearby. The other thing, the next thing is to notice. Just start noticing your thoughts. We've talked about this before, but if they're fear-based or erroneous, like they're not in alignment with your truth, notice it. Tell your mind, okay, notice when I'm thinking these things that are not in alignment. And when you notice them, celebrate, woohoo, because before they went unnoticed. So when you notice them, you get to celebrate that. Then you can say, I choose to remember the truth about myself that is true always. And then you can repeat some of those statements, those fundamental truths that you wrote down about yourself, and repeat those until you remember the truth of who you are again. And when you believe them, because that is who you are, and it can never change. You get to learn to observe your mind with curiosity and childlike wonder. So if you're in a state of empty-headedness, you have no judgment. You're like, interesting. I'm thinking this. I'm thinking I'm a piece of crap. That's so fascinating because that's not even possible. And then if you remember, all events are neutral. You're the one who assigns meaning, you and only you. So just remember, all events are neutral. When you're believing that an event is a certain way or you have a judgment, you get to remind yourself, this is neutral. How else could I look at this? And just ask yourself questions. The ego does not question itself. So when you start asking yourself questions, you are inviting spirit in. There's no other option. And remember this, if you remember nothing else, if you don't like what you are experiencing, choose again. Choose again. You're like, wait, this still sucks. I'm going to make a different choice. That still sucks. I'm going to make a different choice. You have infinite choices available to you. It's not like you only get 10 and then you're cut off. No, you can choose a zillion times a day. There's no limit. Have fun with this. Have fun. Like I do, like play with it. And remember, seriousness is of the ego. You are created to play. And remember, you were born to create. What pebbles do you choose to drop in the pool of your awareness? Each pebble will create your tomorrows. So what are you choosing to put in there? I hope this was supportive to you. I'm so grateful that you watched, and I am excited. So if you want to connect with me, you can reach me through my website, which is karenseltz.com. If you would like to chat with me by phone, I have what's called a free possibilities call, and that is on connectwithkaren.us. Connectwithkaren.us. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you right here next week. Bye.